Hello, hello. I'm Kier,
And I'm Liam.
and this is Hot Take Think Tank. So, Liam, did you know that polyamory is majorly in the discourse this week?
Um, well, of course, because it was the topic of your Kier here essay, and that's the only
Uh,
zeitgeist I pay attention to.
Actually, someone messaged me about that, and they were
Hmm.
like, "Oh my gosh, like, what great timing of you to write about polyamory this week." And I was like, honestly, the truth is that I was working on another essay and I couldn't finish it on time. So it's
Yeah,
lucky
that's
timing on
funny.
my part. But
But
yeah,
yeah, it's zeitgeist this week. It's what everyone's talking about.
it kind of is. Yeah. So there's this memoir that came out called More, and it's by this polyamorous woman named Molly Roden Winter.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's just kind of getting widely discussed, sort of like in the mainstream culture, which is not always the case.
Yeah, totally.
Hmm. And yeah, I wrote an essay called Polyamory's Superiority Complex last week.
Yeah,
Um,
another
yeah,
good one. It seems to have clicked, and lots of interesting comments beneath it, and all of that. You mentioned that you wanted to clarify one of the points you made in the article.
I did actually. Yeah. So um, the article kind of is trying to look at some of the ideological trappings, I guess, of
Mm,
polyamory and why, considering polyamory to be like a superior way of being leads to some kind of sketchy behavior and stuff. And one of
mhm.
my big points was like, you can't persuade someone to be polyamorous, right?
Right,
Like,
right. When I was making my notes for this episode, I did like copy paste that into my notes, and I was like, I might want to push Kier on this a little bit.
yeah, like I think it is possible for one person in a monogamous couple to become interested first and then,
Hmm.
at the second person to develop an interest slower and maybe,
Right.
but ultimately it's not going to work unless both people are agree to it, right?
Yeah.
And that's actually what I wanted to clarify and complicate a little bit, right?
Mm.
Because basically not all polyamorous relationships are symmetrical. And I should know
Hmm.
this because my relationship is like this.
Uh-huh.
I date other people. My partner does not date other people. And this works for us, right?
Right.
Um, so that's basically the clarification I wanted to make is that you can have a healthy relationship where one person is polyamorous and the other person isn't. But the person who's not dating
Okay.
outside of it needs to at least feel neutrally towards it, right? They don't have to like love it.
Right, right. Well,
But
and they
if,
don't have to like if it were framed as like an ideological thing, then it would be harder to strike that balance, right? Because it's like,
mhm.
no, this is the right way to live life. So if you're not doing that, that's a problem. But if you
Yeah,
take
yeah,
a
exactly.
more this is just a behavior I'm choosing to partake in approach, then there's lots of room for just yeah, being cool with it, cool with
Being
not
cool
doing
with
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like if the partner who's not dating outside the relationship feels tons of jealousy or resentment or distress, it's not going to
Yeah.
work. But if that partner's like, that's fine with me, then it's possible. So that's one thing. I feel
Totally.
like I sort of smoothed over some complexity in the essay.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I feel like right, you say like it's impossible to convince someone to be polyamorous. And I I think like sort of what you're getting at with that is the idea that like a conversation where one person tries to talk the other into a polyamorous relationship
Hmm.
uh, is probably not going to be convincing to that other person, right? That it's sort of like not it's something um, that the person needs to like connect with something internal to them. Like it can't be solely an external force pushing them towards that decision.
Hmm.
It's sort of like that old the joke, the therapist light bulb joke, right? How many therapists does it take to change a light bulb?
How
Only one,
many?
but the light bulb has to want to change, right? It's
Exactly.
like it's
Exactly.
like if there's no like well that's the thing. I feel like making it ideological makes you think that there's like a rhetorical argument you could make that's like
Yeah.
ironclad and absolutely convincing and like no one could withstand its accuracy.
Right, exactly.
But
Like that
hmm,
if you actually understand polyamory, then you would
right.
have to be it because it's obviously the right choice, right? No, no, no.
Yeah, totally. Like
Yeah,
if you just read this book and give it an honest assessment, I'm sure
exactly.
you'll understand. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to sort of challenge in the essay, but I did a bit too much smoothing over.
Well, it's you got to keep your essays. I appreciate how your essays come out nice and concise. So a little smoothing here and there. There was one correction I'm bringing for your essay
Bring it on.
because I'm the guy who loves to read the studies that are cited in these sorts of things. And let's see. You say in a 2001 research study, only 1 in 9 people had been in a polyamorous relationship, and only 1 in 6 people wanted to try one.
Mhm.
Now, it's not a huge thing, but that research study was actually a survey of single people,
Oh, that's
a
interesting.
representative sample of the whole American population of single people,
Mhm.
but it is that subset,
Mhm.
which does sort of make a difference in this particular case because I feel like whether or not someone is single might correlate in meaningful ways with whether or not they're polyamorous. Um,
Yeah,
just because
absolutely.
there's a big chunk of monogamous people who are, present company included, who have not been single in a very long time because they just found one partner and stick with them forever.
Mhm.
So
Right. So I could see how that wouldn't necessarily, yeah, be a proper representation of the
yeah,
general population
to
for
be
sure.
fair, the study sort of says that thing about it being single people right up top, and then drops the qualification when it like gives the 1 in 9 statistic. Like it
Well,
says 1
that's
in 9.
not great for people like me that just skim things.
No. It's
No.
yeah, totally. It's like if someone uh yeah, I don't know. It's academic papers, man. They are hard to read. We might get back into that later.
I think we might. No, it's good. I'm glad you caught it though. And it's tough. Like I do have to be careful about bringing in statistics because I am not great at reading those papers. And it's funny how
Yeah,
even a simple thing like how many people are polyamorous, like
totally.
is kind of a hard thing to find something to cite. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
good note for
kudos
me.
for trying at all to find a thing to cite. I like that that's like on your mind, like
Thank you.
that you want to have data in there, and you do, but not quite. There was one other statistic in that study that I found interesting. Maybe I'll bring it up here.
Mhm.
Not related to what you wrote exactly, but among participants who had previously engaged in polyamory, ooh, maybe we'll turn this into a quiz because I don't have one planned. So, single people who had previously been in a polyamorous relationship, what percent would be in a polyamorous relationship again?
Oh
Like, would
man.
opt for that?
Oh
Which
dear.
I thought it was a funny statistic because it's almost like a review,
It
right? Like,
is.
we tried this thing.
Would you do it
Am I
again?
like,
Yeah, would you
yeah,
recommend? Oh man, okay. I really have no idea. I'm gonna say 60%. 60.
30%?
Oh no.
Which didn't seem great.
That's not great. No.
Not a great.
Okay, I think this is a good segue because basically what I wanted to do with today's episode is I do think that this, zeitgeisty moment has kicked up a new round of like debates and discussions and some misunderstandings. And I want to talk about them, but I don't want to talk about like the 101 level stuff, right? Like myth
Right.
busting that all polyamorous are nymphomaniacs or a poly teach-in about why you shouldn't treat your secondary partners like crap. I think most
Right.
listeners can either have that foundation or they can find it elsewhere. So what I wanted to do is discuss the
Mhm.
things that even well-informed people are either getting wrong or avoiding talking about.
Right.
Yeah, so I've
Sounds good.
got stuff that polyamorous people are avoiding talking about, and I've got some stuff that maybe monogamous people are not quite getting right.
Cool. Let's get right into it. We'll start with the things that polyamorists don't want to talk about, except for you.
Except for me, I'm the only good one. No. Well, I think, polyamorous in general are aware that abuse and mistreatment can happen in polyamorous relationships, just as it can in any relationship. I think you'd have to be pretty deluded to deny that much. I'm sure there's some bros out there doing that. But anyways, we're going to pretend they're not there. But one thing I don't think gets talked about enough is how, like, the concept of polyamory itself can be wielded over people in a harmful or even abusive way.
Right.
And that if we consider polyamory to be a superior relationship structure, it really kind of helps enable that type of behavior.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I feel like I kind of gestured towards this in my essay by talking about how, like, both people do have to get on board at some point or it's not going to work out. But I got a comment under the essay that really illuminated this.
Yes, I think I read that one.
It's a memorable one. So I'm going to take a paragraph out of the larger comment, and it says the following. Last year, my partner of a long-term monogamous relationship suddenly asked to date another person, and although I initially agreed, more out of fear of losing the relationship than anything else, it quickly devolved into a situation where I was not okay with being in a non-monogamous relationship. I asked for the other relationship to end, and then my partner chose to leave me to be with the other person. I experienced a lot of dishonesty, intentional distortion, and denial of reality. My partner trying to, quote, diagnose me with issues they had read about in poly books, and many more behaviors that have left me with immense pain and heartbreak that I won't get into here. My experiences are personal anecdotes on one level, but I worry that the current poly trend is another example of people adopting dogma and jargon in place of getting to the root causes of why relationships actually may be hard or fail.
Yeah, fascinating. I feel bad for this person.
Yeah. I'm glad this person has, like, gained the insight to be able to describe it like this, right? That, like,
totally.
Their partner tried to make them feel insane for not wanting to be polyamorous with them.
Right. Yeah. Like there was something wrong with them for. Yeah, no, it's sort of it does seem pretty interesting, the idea of, like, because I do feel like it's often talked about in similar language that people talk about, like, sexual orientations or gender identities and that sort of thing. Which I think are very, like, meaningful. Meaningful progress has been made on both of those fronts for, like, being accepting and being understanding, which is, like, a definite good thing for society to work on. And it sort of feels like people sort of might, like, co-opt those rhetorical strategies for other maybe tangentially related topics. And sort of frame them in that same, like, moral or political way. I don't know, almost to, like, wield against people who are just trying to be good people, who are, like, understanding about this sort of thing, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, right? Like, I feel like I think it was, I'm trying to see if there's any pronouns in there, maybe not. But anyways, the person who eventually left this monogamous relationship.
Yeah.
It just feels like they wanted to avoid being the bad one. They wanted to avoid, like, being responsible for ending the relationship and being like, things have changed for me. I want something else. I'm going to leave you, right? That's ultimately, like, those are the behaviors that happened. Right. But to be able to, like, totally take zero responsibility for it and push it all on the other person because they're not open-minded enough, they're too jealous, they're too insecure, even when you're the one who's trying to change the terms of the agreement that you have, like, that's just, like, and I think what you're saying, Liam, plays into that, right? Because if polyamory is, like, a choice that you make, you decide to be monogamous, you decide to be polyamorous, we're not, like, weighing morality in either of those.
Right. Yeah.
That's one thing. You kind of have to, as a responsible adult, like, be accountable for the choices you make or changing your mind or whatever. But if polyamory is like something you're born with, that's like
right,
innate to you, and you're
right, or maybe
actually
even
coming
innate
out to your partner.
or maybe even innate to everyone. So you're coming
Right.
out to your partner and helping them reach the next level of enlightenment or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Like suddenly, you're right. Like all of a sudden, oh, are
Yeah.
we supposed to like celebrate this as like a coming out moment, coming out of the closet? Like,
Right, totally.
and
Well,
yeah,
and blame this person who left the comment for like not being able to fulfill that, like to reach the promised land or whatever.
yeah, not being
It's like
open-minded enough,
it
right?
just
Like,
it strikes me, not in every case, obviously, but like it just of the idea of like cognitive dissonance and like dissonance reduction, where people don't like to think of themselves as bad people, obviously,
mhm,
and so they sort of will um, find ways to justify the ways that they're acting, right? And it's like if you
yeah,
find yourself in a relationship that you want to end, but you feel bad because have mean something to this person and you're going to hurt them.
mhm,
If you happen to come across a book that gives an ideology that explains how everything you're doing is secretly okay all along, you might be very drawn to that because it lets you keep right. It lets you keep your crush on this new person
mhm.
and lets you not feel bad about yeah, changing course on the previous person.
Well, and it's hard to not be a little bit cynical too. Like it's possible that
Mm-mm.
this person's partner wanted to be polyamorous, wanted to stay with them, and that's what they said and that's what they meant. Another possibility is that they were kind of over this relationship and
Yeah.
they also kind of wanted to make this change in their life. And so, like it's going to harm your reputation more potentially if you either cheat on that person or you break up and immediately start a new relationship. Whereas if you do this thing where you're like, oh well, we opened our relationship and then she changed her mind and then like blah blah this other stuff happened, like there's like more wiggle room for you to try and like wriggle your way out of like. And the thing is like we all hurt each other sometimes, right? Like there's no way
Yeah.
around that. So it's not like it's the worst person in the world who like decides to change and break up. Like that's a thing that happens. It's more just like when you have to use all of this like utopian language to try and like obfuscate what you're doing. Like it gets really ugly. And I just
Yeah.
like that leaves people with a really awful impression of what polyamory is and how we behave.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, I feel like yeah, I mean that whole comment reflects sort of like nothing from what I've seen in like your relationships or most of the relationships of other people I know who like have more than one partner at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Um but it's almost like people like you give not on purpose, but like provide this like armor almost for people like this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like it is I like obviously I don't think polyamory is like a morally objectionable thing, right? So then it lets people use it as an excuse maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially if we don't talk about it, right? Like if we
Right.
like refuse or just pretend it doesn't happen, like
Right.
yeah,
I feel is
yeah.
that another thing you wanted to get into? This sort of like, it's a joke I usually have heard about like vegans. Right. That's like, how do you know that someone's a vegan? They'll tell you. And I feel like you said similar things can happen with enthusiastic polyamorists.
Yes. Yes. This kind of fits in a bit to the second topic, right?
Hmm.
Like misconceptions that monogamous people may have.
Yeah.
So there's kind of two parts to that, I guess, for me. And the first part is exactly what you're talking about. So a lot of people, some comments I got online,
Hmm.
they're like, oh, the only polyamorous person I met was so obnoxious about it. they like brought it up
Right.
out of nowhere in a super like inappropriate context, and like what the hell, like it really put me off of it, right? And I do have that experience. I remember going to the bike shop to get my bike fixed last year, and the
A
guy who's
classic venue to talk about your relationship status.
yeah, exactly. That's why I really went there. No, and the mechanic was like fixing my bike, and then was like, "Oh yeah, my other partner, blah blah blah."
Mhm.
And I was like, first of all, sir, you have not talked about your first partner, so you could just say partner,
Right.
and then say the thing, right? Like, I don't
Totally.
actually need to know like your relationship structured. It was like an anecdote about like an injury that person had had and how they got better from it, or something like that, right? It's like, again, a situation that did not require the disclosure of polyamory.
I do feel like this, might be my monogamous. Maybe this is part of part 2 where we tell me Liam that Liam's wrong, but part of the vibe of that is like dropping that you're single. That's the feeling I get, right? As
Right.
being like, oh yeah, no, I have more than one partner. If you're looking for someone to be one of the many, you want to join the club.
No, for sure. And you know what? Like, it was like slightly that vibe. I couldn't tell for sure. But, and I'll be honest, the other part of me was like, all right, like, you're kind of a bro, but I kind of appreciated it also because I'm in the suburbs where, like, I don't know if there's, like, I would have no idea how to date out here polyamorously.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Maybe you just like spotted your tattoos and was like, I think I can say this in front of this person.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, those are some bad stick and pokes. Let's talk about this. But yeah, I guess what I wanted to say about that is I do feel like that might be a bit of the availability heuristic playing out. And what I mean by that is that it is likely that people who think they've only met one obnoxious polyamorist also know other polyamorists who haven't told them because they keep their private life private.
Totally. That's like the flip side of the vegan joke, is like, how can you tell that someone's a vegan if they don't tell you? Right? It's like, well, it's hard to measure that one, isn't it?
Exactly.
Unless you're eating a meal together where it's like conspicuous. It's you don't always know if someone's a vegan or not based on if they tell you. You know for sure that they are if they do, but if they don't, you know nothing about that.
Yeah, exactly. And I do feel like, there are a lot of us who are not going to drop it into random conversation. It's only going to come up if it's relevant. And like, for me, I don't consider it like the same as coming out. So like, oh, I should, reduce the stigma by talking about it all the time. I'm like, no, it's my business. And it's like, it's neat to know. And I think the other thing that I wish people would have a little bit of compassion for maybe is like, I think many of us, had a friend when they were young, maybe a teenager, who came out of the closet and was just like covered in rainbows, had like the biggest sassy lisp, and was like swinging their hips all over the place, and that was a phase. That person did not stay like that forever. They had some like baby gay energy that slowly dissipated. And I hope that polyamorous are often the same, where when they first encounter it and are experiencing it, they get very excited and annoying about it.
Yeah.
And then they mellow out.
I feel like that is a pattern you see in all sorts of things. Like whenever someone like reads a new book that they're really into, then like all of a sudden you hear all about it, and then they move on the next time you see them. You know what I mean? It's like people get excited about things and want to talk about them, and kind of doesn't matter what the thing is, I don't think.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Maybe people do it a bit more when it is like somehow reducing the cognitive dissonance, right? Which I could see for polyamory or just coming out of the closet, in that it's like, if you feel like it's the sort of thing that society generally rejects, just being able to, I don't know, like find some evidence to the contrary, right? Just by talking about it and not being shunned for it, could just feel good, right? Like your place in the world is valid, and you get to be the way you want to be.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally.
like it seems like a sensible. It's a fine thing to talk about. So much of this is like it seems like fine things to do and be, but there's this like inclination to. It makes me think so much of your essay a couple weeks ago about the purity,
Mm.
like standard, and the idea of like, right, maybe people want to like, right, they want to be pure in the things they watch and the things they say and the people they interact with and all of that, and like can polyamory be part of that, where it's like I need to purify even my understanding of how relationships should work,
Mm-hmm.
right, where it's like not um it's like another thing on the checklist of like I am an okay person in the social justice subculture, right? That like I I it's
Mm-hmm.
just which is it's a weird one because it's like it seems like you were saying, right? It's not something that someone can be like talked into,
Mm-hmm.
or not something that someone should be talked into. But it's like if you're in a certain culture where it's right where monogamy is like seen as regressive, do
Yeah.
you end up like needing to adopt this new approach to this part of your life that probably should just be up to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I definitely heard from a couple different people who are LGBT and monogamous, and we're
Hmm.
just talking about how, first of all, how hard it is to date like that you have a much, much smaller dating
Right.
pool.
Hmm.
And then also the kind of baggage that can come with it, where yeah, you do get treated maybe like yeah, you're insecure or you're jealous or there's something not quite right with you if you
Right.
choose to be monogamous. Like, but actually, this kind
Hmm.
of is another great segue because
Hmm.
I think through what we read, there is an important distinction actually to be made between lesbians and gays and how
Right.
into polyamory they are versus bisexual and pansexual people who often would call themselves queer these days
Hmm.
and how much they like polyamory. And the general
Yeah.
thing just being that I think that there are these ideas of who's polyamorous, right? They're white,
Yeah.
they're wealthy, they're a
Hmm.
Democrat. And it seems like from what the reading I've done, that sort of is a myth that's largely left over from like studies of swingers in the 1970s, and
Hmm.
doesn't accurately paint a picture of like who is polyamorous today. So why don't we
Yeah.
talk about that next?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you sent along a piece from the Rolling Stone magazine, I guess is what they like to be called,
Mm-hmm.
who really practices polyamory, and it's mostly like a summary of a research paper um, from the Journal of Sex Research, demographic comparisons of American individuals in polyamorous and monogamous relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and an interesting study. The this episode hopefully is more than just Liam complaining about reporting of statistics, but statistics are confusing, and studies are often not written for like a general audience, and then the people who translate them to general audiences sometimes don't read the study quite right.
Mm-hmm.
But the headline thing, because you asked me sort of what that study said in that regard. And the gist of it was that, like, it's a big survey, like 2,500 people, I think. 80% polyamorous. It's like a web survey sort of thing. So not a representative sample necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But of the people who checked monogamous, normative fashion, I guess you'd say today.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's like this. I feel like there's I don't know. There are gay and lesbian people of all stripes, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
it's not I'm not sure what the overlap between like us having sexual orientation other than heterosexual and being in social justice culture.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that overlap might be smaller than people think.
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like queer is more or less a political identity at this point, and generally does correlate with social justice beliefs. Not 100% of the time. I mean, I don't know what to call myself at this point because queer feels weird for those reasons, but it's also like feels like the right word. But yeah, there are a lot fewer people that identify as like lesbian or gay who are into the social justice world, partially because there are these ideas that like having that type of preference could be transphobic.
Right. Yeah. It's like almost calling yourself a lesbian is like regressive or something.
Yeah, there
Which
is
seems
that
like
idea.
a wild, like whiplash of like what, like 10, 15 years, maybe?
It's a weird one. It's a weird one. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of gotten to the point where like lesbian in social justice land means whatever you want it to mean. You don't have to be a woman. You don't have to like women. It's just if you feel like you want to use that word, you can use it. It's a vibe. Yeah. Totally. I think that's where that's at. But yeah, it's just generally unpopular to call yourself a lesbian, so most people don't in that world. But yeah, there's some other interesting stuff in here. Yeah, there was okay, I wanted to get into the question of like ethnicity, the question of education, and even wealth and politics.
Is it rich white people?
Yes.
Rich white Democrats.
Is it rich white Democrats? Is that who polyamorous people are? Okay. So although most of them are bisexual or pansexual, not all, but many of them.
My brain does something funny with that fact where it's just like, if you have to choose a set of 3 or more people, you're probably going to have more than 1 or 2 genders in that group. So it's like you got to be bi or pansexual.
You need someone in there to be exactly someone in your your triad has to be
exactly. Just the math doesn't quite work.
No, you're totally right. Unless I guess you could have like a chain. But anyways,
that's true, yeah. I mean, then we're getting into like topography or geometry.
Geometry, yeah. You'd have to start diagramming things out.
And if I have trouble reading the statistics studies, then a geometry paper, I'm going to be lost in.
I did once when I was living in a queer collective house where probably almost everyone was polyamorous, including in very dysfunctional ways. My friend and I did sit down and do like the L word style like map of everyone who had dated everyone else.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the L word, but I can guess, I think from context clues what you're talking about. It's like everyone is like gets their name in a circle and then you draw the lines between people kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like a big brainstorm except with relationships. And it gets pretty wild looking. But anyways, so some surprises. I thought one of them is that polyamorists are more likely to be in a low income bracket, and monogamous people are more likely to be in a higher income bracket.
Yeah.
So the wealthy idea doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Political affiliation was interesting. I'm not sure the right statistical way to put this, but it seemed like polyamorous were just as likely to be Democrat or Republican as monogamous people were.
The Rolling Stone article made it seem that way, didn't it?
Oh, okay. Here we go.
No, looking at the actual data table, that's not the right interpretation. The actual divide there is let's see, make sure I'm looking at the right number. About 43% of people in the polyamory group are Democrats, and 3% are Republican.
Oh, interesting.
But so the interesting bit there is that only adds to 46. So where is everybody else?
Right.
There are mostly 36% in the independent category.
Oh, interesting.
which was sort of one of the broad trends, is that maybe people in polyamorous relationships generally like to not be in categories or like be clearly labeled.
They like the other box.
Yes, there were some comments about that, like just how many other responses they got for pretty much every question. People would check other and then write their own personalized answer, not satisfied with the list they'd been presented with.
Gotcha.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, same with religion. 30% checked other, which is high given like the agnostic, atheist, Buddhist, Christian, Hindu, Jewish, and Muslim were all options. But other was 30%, which is not.
It's pagans. It's all pagans.
All right, yeah, you know these people better than me.
Heathens, Wiccans, pagans.
But yeah, so it's true that there's not like a single political affiliation that everyone falls into, but it's Democrats is the biggest cohort and independent is the second biggest.
Okay, so there's not a bunch of secret Republican polyamorists based on this data. Okay, that's a good distinction because I do feel like the Rolling Stone coverage of that was misleading.
Yes.
What about education?
Right, education. That seems to not be strongly correlated one way or the other.
Okay.
We got people with high school or less associate's degrees and bachelor degrees, and they're about equal between the two categories.
Okay, how about ethnicity then? Are polyamorists particularly white?
Are they particularly white? Okay, ethnicity. White only. No. In fact, they are slightly less white than monogamists.
Oh, that's interesting.
In this study.
Yeah,
yes. In the study, 83% overall were white. In the polyamorous group, 0.5% less were white, and in the monogamy group, 86% were white. So more whites in the monogamous group, percentage-wise. But a pretty white sample overall.
Right. So it doesn't tell us a whole lot about.
Right, and it also doesn't. It's funny. It's one of these studies that like wasn't written, I don't think, to be put in the media. By which I mean it didn't. There's some work you could do to these numbers to make for better headlines that they did not do for the study. By which I mean like they didn't do the math where it's like you could extrapolate sort of like if you find that like your sample has this many white people, this many black people or whatever, you could look at the full population numbers for the various race categories and do some math and multiplication to figure out like what like the rates are, right? Are white people disproportionately represented one way or another? And they did not do that math. So it's sort of hard to discern, right? Are the 86% white? Is that more white than any random group of people you pick off the street, or less white? Hard to say.
I also noticed that it said that polyamorous were much more likely to check multi-ethnic or native, and so there's a slightly cynical part of me that's like, I wonder what that means to those people.
Right,
exactly.
Is that like checking the other for their religion, where they're like, I'm, can't label me. I'm different.
Exactly.
Very free spirited, maybe.
Yes.
Not, who knows? Maybe they, saw a shaman and saw a past life and figured out something about their genetic makeup. You never know.
You never know. Okay, can we talk about past lives for a second?
Sure.
The thing that cracks me up so much is that like absolutely no one ever finds out that they were a peasant.
It's true.
Never. I've never ever heard of that.
Which is remarkable given that like almost everyone used to be peasants. That was
I'm pretty sure like
the way of life.
You could probably say like at least 95% of all the humans that have ever lived were
lived in squalor of some sort or another.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe hunter-gathering, maybe farming, subsistence
Yeah.
farming, but like there was only
Right,
one
and only
Cleopatra, right?
I was going to
But she
say
has a lot
Cleopatra.
of
Yeah.
she
But
has a
there was
lot
only
of
ever the one.
descendants.
Yep. Yeah, I think when Ross and Carrie from Oh No, Ross and Carrie, that podcast I love. I think when they did past life regression, Carrie was in fact Cleopatra. So that's cool.
Amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure she's the only one. Because only one person could have the same past life. That only makes sense.
You would think so. You would think so. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it definitely feels like based on this study, yeah, it seems like polyamorists are very interested in sort of self-defining and like kind of finding themselves outside of the list of options in a number of different ways. And it's interesting because I do feel like when I read the Rolling Stone article, I did get a slightly distorted picture that you helped clear up, that there aren't a bunch of secret Republican
No,
polyamorous.
Republicans like monogamy. That's like right up top.
Yeah.
Guns, monogamy, and hating immigrants. That's their whole thing.
The triad. But I do think it's the wealth thing is interesting. That the average polyamorist is likelier to have less money than the average monogamist. And that the education is about even. The ethnicity thing, it's not overwhelmingly more white in the polyamorous cohort. It's interesting because I feel like polyamory, I mean, it kind of comes and goes like in popular consciousness or whatever. But I do feel like, because in this moment, there's this memoir, and the memoir was put out by this woman who like lives in Park Slope. And I looked up Park Slope, and the average house there is like costs like $1.7 million or something like that.
It's a neighborhood in New York City, I think, right?
Yeah, in Brooklyn. Yeah. So it's like cream of the crop, creme de la creme neighborhood. So
that probably puts a very romantic spin on the whole thing, or like a very mass appeal, sort of glossy finish.
Yeah, totally. And we've seen like some polyamory. There was like a little bit in White Lotus. There was some in Succession. So definitely in a lot of the media representations, you do have these like obnoxious wealthy people that are practicing it, and they do. But yeah, that's not like representative of like your average polyamorous. And I think that's worth pointing out.
Yeah, totally. There one other interesting bit where there like was a meaningful divergence between the two groups was under their marital status. A lot of polyamorous people were divorced, much more than monogamous people, which I think is just an interesting sort of like, I mean, it seems almost obvious, right? Where it's like someone who tried, at the height of monogamy, getting married and didn't work out. That person is likely to try something else.
Yeah.
That seems like a natural growth venue for the polyamory movement, right? As people who, tried the mainstream, didn't work, try something else.
Yeah, totally. And I think the researcher said like there could be multiple explanations for that, right? Like there's the simple math of it. If you have more relationships, you're going to have more breakups, and if marriage is in there, then you're going to have divorce in there too.
Totally. Well, and I guess you could also point to like the other direction of causation where it's like maybe the person was like inherently a polyamorous type.
Right.
And that is why they got divorced.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They were repressing their true nature, which like I don't want to be entirely dismissive of that. I think there are people that like are really unhappy in one style of relationship or the other. Like obviously I do think that, or I would think that you could convince people to be polyamorous, right? If totally. Like no one had any like inclination one way or the other.
Right. I think I wonder though, like the distinction between it being like in someone's nature or just like in their experience or how they feel or behave. Like I don't know if it might be a distinction without a difference sort of thing, but like in their nature, I feel like implies some sort of like, I don't know, genetic tie or like innate characteristic of a person. Whereas I feel for some reason I bump against that, and it's like that seems to put too much weight on it in my mind, where it's like just things don't have to be innate to be worth caring about. Right?
Right.
Like you
Yeah, and
don't
to
have
be
to be like
strongly felt, right?
totally. Like you can
Yeah.
just strongly feel something because you had an experience or because you read a book or right you had a bad breakup and you don't want to go through that again. Like those are fine reasons to want a relationship of one type or another. There doesn't have to be this like appeal to nature or appeal to genetics or anything like that. It's like you can
Yeah.
just people can choose this sort of thing.
You can mind
I
your
think
business, you can let other people mind their business.
yeah, totally. And it doesn't have to be this like there's just so much. I feel like there's so much stuff where people try to tie it into these like big rhetorical arguments where it's like, this is the one true way to eat is this diet, and that's because our caveman ancestors used to eat, or right, or like, and it's like there's nothing. I don't know. I don't find that sort of thing very compelling. People, there's
Yeah.
lots of things that were bad in the past, and like that might be in our nature.
Right.
That it's good that we don't do anymore, and it's like a weird. It's like a line that people use to argue in favor of things that they like and that they ignore when it comes to things that they don't like.
Right.
Whether or not something is natural seems like a unimportant distinction to me.
Yeah, I mean it might be interesting, it might be useful in
Yeah,
some
sure.
ways, but it is not fatalistic, right? Like, yeah, if, I don't know, if it is true that testosterone makes someone somewhat more likely to commit violence, like that doesn't mean they
Right.
will. It doesn't mean they're not capable of choosing otherwise. Like
Yeah.
it's like a fact, right? And we get to decide like
Totally.
what to do with that. Right?
Yeah,
What the
exactly.
implications of it are, like what choices,
Yeah.
what policies, what decisions to make around that, right?
Totally. Well, and it's
Yeah.
like I just feel like a lot of this just comes down to like try and be a good person. Right? It's like you want to have good relationships. That's probably that part that matters more, I would say, than the structure of the relationship is like whether or not you're being good to the people who you're dating, no matter how many of
Yeah.
them there are, right? And I feel like there's the aspect of the ideology of polyamory that your article sort of arguing against is that it's like somehow this like perfect system that like any like pain or heartbreak that occurs is because of a failure to live up to this perfect way of having a relationship, as opposed to just like that's how things go, there isn't a perfect anything. And like the important thing is to like do your best, sort of regardless of like hurt or pain that might show up in a relationship. It's not that it's like making it it's like making it black or white, right? Like that there's a right way to do these sort of things. Doesn't seem particularly helpful as opposed to just like trying, like striving to do well.
Yeah, no, I think and that's something that kind of ties like social justice culture and polyamory together, apart from the fact that there's tons of overlap, but it's
Right.
also just the utopian nature of it, right? The utopian history of it, the idea that like you want to live a life that will bring forth the world that you want, right? That's like, that's what's behind it, right? And so, yeah, it's an odd way to live. I don't know. On the one hand, like, although I no longer want to be a utopian, like, I think I'm still an idealist. Like, it's hard for me to just be like extremely like rational and pragmatic and reasonable all the time. And I mean, I even had a paragraph that I ended up editing out of that essay that kind of speculated on it. It's like, well, why am I polyamorous? Like, I don't know. Is it because like I had a crappy boyfriend at 18? Is it because my parents got divorced? Is it because like I'm like, who knows, right? Like, and there was a thoughtful comment underneath the essay that kind of was saying like that I've done a lot of like critical introspection in like on ways that like radical culture has impacted my life. And so they were kind of curious like where polyamory fit into that, right? And I kind of get that. It's like, well, if you're no longer, into identitarianism in social justice politics, why would you necessarily still be polyamorous? And
totally. Yeah,
I think,
in your transition away from that stuff, what all will fall away, right?
Exactly.
And I feel like it's an interesting question.
Yeah, and is this like an unexamined part of my life, or is it? And for me, the answer is that it's been important for me to like figure out what the ideological trappings of polyamory are and to challenge those. And that's what the essay does. And for me, like now polyamory is just, it's a practice, it's a choice, it's a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And it's also really important to me that like I don't choose it over people that I love. Like if my partner tomorrow was like, listen, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to be monogamous, like I would say yes to that because that's how much that relationship matters to me. And I'm not willing to sacrifice people I love for a value anymore.
Right. And you don't see it as, you wouldn't see that as like a moral failing on their part, or like they need to read a book or understand the argument better.
No, or that like, they were trying to repress me or
right.
Yeah. And that's, I think, like that really matters to me. Like I need to have the cognitive flexibility to choose something, right? If there's something that I feel like I have to do, that I'm forced to do, that I must do, or I'm a bad person, like I need to look at that and really consider if that's true or not. It's true for certain things, like if I murder someone, like,
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's not all relative, but there are a lot of decisions we do make that like, they have weight to them and they affect people. But there's not necessarily like if you're not religious or you don't have sort of another kind of set of baked in principles that you're following, you have a lot of decisions to make.
Totally. Yeah, well, it's interesting to hear you talk about it like that. It just makes me think that like a lot of what matters isn't just like the final decision, but also like the process that someone used to get to that final decision. Right? It's like not, to be polyamorous or not could go either way. But if you choose either way out of a sense of like moral superiority or, an anger or hatred or like an ideology or even
opportunism.
I don't know. Exactly. Yeah, like to weasel your way out of something that's where the problem lies. It's a weird thing where it's like the result isn't what, like neither of the results are wrong, but you can still get there wrongly.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been interesting to see all the discourse. There's definitely been like some pretty wild takes, or kind of a reminder that
you did send along a comment that compared it to bestiality, I think.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
Yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I think I don't know if I can find this real quick in my notes or not, but there was something that we read that talked about how likely people who weren't interested in polyamory were of respecting polyamorous people.
Oh, right. Yeah.
It was really low.
Yes. Yeah, I remember seeing the same. Like people who are outside of that culture think of it as a morally repugnant kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The number that's in my head is like 1 in 7 non-polyamorous thought that was like a respectable choice to make. So yeah, that's slightly depressing. That's probably also why I usually don't tell people.
Right, because most people will think of you worse for it.
Yeah, and I think that's why like some people do get upset when you critique a small subculture that continues to like really not have like power exactly, right? Like maybe there's a cool factor to polyamory, but like there's not like political power there. So but at the same time, like I don't know, I do just really strongly disagree with that kind of notion of like needing to sort of like protect your in-group from criticism, even if it's valid, because then you just seem dishonest because you are.
So. Totally. Yeah, well, and good criticism helps movements get stronger. It doesn't hurt them, right? Like it can point out things that will cause problems if not addressed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'd love to get the message out there that like using polyamory as a cudgel against your partner is not a good look. Yeah. And people aren't going to think it's cool, so don't do it.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, there's one other thing I wanted to point out before we signed off here. This was also in the Rolling Stone article. I should say the author's name too, real quick. Zachary Zane, the article, who really practices polyamory in the Rolling Stone. It mentioned a YouGov study that, it used like a spectrum of like polyamorous to monogamous, right? Like kind of like a is it the Kinsey scale? Numbers, right? Fully monogamous on one end, fully polyamorous in the other, and people could pick in between. And this was interesting because when I was doing my essay, I was trying to find like an accurate number for how many people are polyamorous. And it's a tricky thing to pin down. But that study did find that only half of millennials want a 100% monogamous relationship. So it'll be interesting to see over time, like, is it trending right now? Are they going to change their minds later? Or, is it really a shift that's going to like sustain itself in subsequent generations? But the thing that really cracked me up was that regardless of how monogamous or polyamorous the respondents were, they were all more comfortable with themselves having extra partners than their partners having extra partners.
Right. Everyone's like, it's fine if I do it. I just don't want my partner to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do think that same study, it was like the cohort that was most on the side of polyamory was like the college age men. Which isn't a group that I strongly associate with like the social justice thing. So I feel like they might have had something else in mind.
Yes, that's a very good point. Well, I think that's about it for today.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, we've sort of been taking a more relaxed, more focused approach to the podcast. Maybe if anyone has thoughts on that, it would be cool to hear about them.
Yeah, totally. Leave us a comment, what you thought of today, what you thought of us kind of switching it up a little bit, and we'll read them.
Totally.
All right. Well, this has been Hot Take Think Tank. Until next time.